Joining us now to try to break some of this down and figure out where exactly we are headed with this trend towards socialism in a country whose economics right now and economy is the envy of the globe. Alfredo Ortiz, he's the president and CEO of Job Creators Network. Alfredo, great to have you.
John, good morning. Great being with you. I appreciate the opportunity, as always.
Alfredo, let me just ask you something. I can't get over this. And you heard in my intro, you got this Harris poll out right now. Half of young people say they'd rather live in a socialist country. Of course, none of them have ever spent a day waiting in line for a food box in Caracas or any part of Venezuela. You've got our economy right now, which is the envy of the globe. Everybody wishes they had our economy, our jobs, our income, and our wealth. How do you go from that to where we are now with these polls?
Yeah, well, John, it's amazing. I mean, the biggest problem is that what the left has done is they have basically redefined what socialism is for millennials, and they've defined it as socialism equaling social good. And that's basically what's winning over these millennials. And the important thing that we need to do is to make sure that we drive these stories home of people who actually left and fled socialist countries to come to the greatest economy in the world, as he said. I mean, again, remember, we just had one of the best unemployment record levels that have been set in the past 50 years across every single demographic group. 3.2% GDP growth, right? I mean, the economy is still red hot, and it's going to continue red hot because we've got great economic principles in place. Then you have, contrast that to folks like Venezuela, what's happening right now, a complete meltdown of that economy, in which, remember, just maybe about a decade ago, if not even less, it was one of the richest countries in the world. That's socialism, right? That is socialism working there in Venezuela. And then the millennials say, oh, yeah, but this country will never become socialism. Well, let's really think about what happened down there, right? These are politicians that overpromised and could not deliver all these things that they were saying to get elected or reelected to the people of Venezuela of what they could give away for free. Sounds familiar, right? And this is exactly what's happening. So they're like, hey, this is great. We get free tuition, free college. In fact, I get paid now. This is one of the things that AOC proposed in her green raw deal, as we call it. You get paid to do nothing. It's ridiculous.
What is this? Where's this going here? I mean, we got Bernie Sanders now aligning with AOC. There's going to be some kind of an alignment. Maybe she'll endorse him. We've got calls for free health care. We got calls for free college. We have calls for a guaranteed income. We have calls for free everything. Now you got even Joe Biden out there, now the leading, I guess, Democratic candidate, Alfredo, saying that, undocumented immigrants that come here illegally should have access to all health care benefits, all benefits that citizens have, that they shouldn't be left out. How do you reconcile that with any kind of a rational economy?
Well, again, John, I think it comes down to, and I think you might remember I mentioned this on your show a couple times ago, but the big problem with the Democrats, right? I call it the 3 Ds. They're dangerous, duplicitous, and disingenuous. And the problem with this is that that's exactly how they lay out all these different promises. You have Bernie Sanders, you have AOC, this alliance, right, working on, really pushing the party further and further and further to the left. Again, I can't even believe that Biden said what he said in terms of let's go ahead and give health care to all undocumented, legal immigrants. That's just crazy. These are American taxpayer dollars. And so, I think what we have to kind of play it out, because I think what's happening is that the Democrats are just continue to drift further and further and further left. And that continues to be an issue. And you see Pelosi is actually kind of trying to bring it a little bit closer back in, a little bit more center, but it's just impossible. I think the wing has left, right? The wing has now completely overtaken the Democratic Party. All these presidential 2020 contenders are trying to out-left each other. And so, you know what? That's even better, because the contrast is going to be so sharp at the end. Once their convention is over and they have their person picked, they are going to be so radically left, quite frankly, in terms of what they've proposed, it's going to be a clear contrast to what has made this country great for the past couple of years already so far, where we are the envy of the world, where we have record unemployment across every single demographic group. We have more people working today than we ever have in this country. I mean, again, when you look at the economic growth and what's happening, wage growth month over month over month, what has happened, it's just been unbelievable. And this economy will continue to be red hot as long as we have these great economic principles of less red tape, less government, lower taxes, and quite frankly, free access or improved access to credit and capital. You just saw the other day how now AOC wants to limit, for example, credit card interest rates. And I don't want to defend the credit card companies. I'm defending access to credit for people who may not actually have this great credit, who can't get these wonderful credit card rates. They at least have access to credit so that they can live in the economy that we currently live in. And so it's important that we protect these principles of free enterprise, overall. And this is why, we're doing a Job Creators Network. We're taking on this fight of socialism versus capitalism because, in the end, what we like to say is we've got a great line. We love pushing this out because we think it encapsulates everything, is that socialism takes, capitalism creates. And at the end of the day, those are the two worlds that we're going to have to decide between when it comes to 2020.
Do you think that this is actually going to be an issue going into the 2020 campaign, Alfredo?
Yeah, I do, John. I think it's going to be. It's really going to come down to that. I think the president. I give kudos to the president because at his State of the Union earlier this year, he drew that line in the sand that says we will not become a socialist country. And again, I give him kudos for that. On the same hand, though, I think about it. Isn't it sad that an American president at a State of the Union address now has to actually make that bold statement that we will not become a socialist country? I mean, this is where we've gone. And again, I think Donald Trump, he is an excellent marketer. He understands, I think, where trends are going. He's seen that this is something that we need to address now and we need to tackle and take on now. And I think folks who've been on the fence, and you have a lot of corporations out there that, are afraid of their shadow at this point because they're afraid of being boycotted. People have to speak out now because socialism cannot become part of our fabric. It cannot be. And we need to fight that. And again, Job Creators Network is going to do everything we can to make sure that we fight that because we know the system that works, and it's a current system that has been in place for the past couple of years. And we need to continue to work on that. John, you and I both know capitalism is not a perfect system, right? But it sure is a heck of a lot better than socialism.
Alfredo, and by the way, we're with Alfredo Ortiz. He is the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network, and I want to thank him for being with us today and sharing his insight. And Job Creators Network has been really at the forefront in this battle in trying to accurately depict the power of capitalism and what we've done in this country, especially of late vis-a-vis capitalism. They've been the one organization out there carrying this mantle. But I want to get back, Alfredo, to what you said a little bit earlier, that isn't it shocking, really, that an American president with this economy has to sit there and stand there in a State of the Union address and saying that we're not going to become a socialist country. I mean, when you really frame that and think about it, and I've said this before, Alfredo, it would be one thing if this was 2008 and people were getting thrown out of their houses and they were being foreclosed and their cars were being repoed and we had 15% unemployment and people were on the street. Then you could, there's always a reaction to that. But we have our economy, as the president said the other day in Panama City, he said it's the envy of the entire globe. So for a young person in college now, with all this opportunity ahead of them, why would 50% of them be saying, let's just have a socialist economy where I don't have to work?
Again, John, I think it's just because if you think about what they've experienced so far, they're 22 years old at most in college, probably maybe 23 at most. How much have they actually worked to date? This is what has happened. This is the product of, frankly, I remember in high school, I was 16, I was working 3-4 jobs in summer. Every single summer. I never took a break, right? And now, under the Obama administration, as you know, Obamacare, increased the age, you can keep your dependents up to 26 years old. I mean, this is called, we're getting to that point where kind of the nanny state, right? I mean, it's ridiculous, but these kids have never, I think, experienced what it's like, quite frankly, to work really hard. It's come pretty easy to them. And so they need to understand what work ethic is and what work ethic can bring. I mean, this country was founded on that belief that if you work really hard, you can get anything you want. It doesn't say that you can just sit there, kick back, be lazy, and quite frankly, expect everything to come to you for free, which is basically what the Democrats are now promoting. Again, free college, free this, free that. Literally, in that Green New Deal that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposed, is that you would get paid not to work, to basically sit on your buns
and get paid.
You would get paid. I've never seen anything like that. And somehow people think that that's okay.
Do you think, does this have anything to do when you look at this Generation Z and the millennial parents? And I just gave my son a birthday shout out. He's a baseball player in high school. He gets up every day. This is his birthday today. He's 15. And he gets up every day, 5:15 a.m., works out, right? Trying to get better, wants to meet his objectives. So is it, but I'm an older parent, right? I'm 61, so I'm not part of that helicopter, parent set. Do the parents, there's this new generation of parents that protect their kids and helicopter around. Is this part of it, or do they have anything to do with any of it?
Yeah, John. I mean, in my humble opinion on this one, yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I saw a great cartoon, and I'll try to find it and I'll send it to you. Put it on your site. It shows basically, back, just 25, 30 years ago, 40 years ago or so, there was the parent next to the teacher lecturing the kid in the classroom, right? Like, hey, you didn't do well on your test or you didn't do well on your homework. Then it says present, and it shows the parents with the student, right, with the kid lecturing the teacher, right? And that kind of captures it, right? It's just that we have flipped, especially in our education system, is that, the power what teachers could bring, right? They are really limited. I have to I salute all the teachers out there because they have an incredibly tough task. They have been so hamstrung by a lot of these unions in terms of what they can and can't do with their kids for discipline and teaching them what they can and can't teach. And quite frankly, a lot of these best educators that we've had in our systems have left. And, we need to go all the way back, John. And again, this is a multi-generation thing. That's why, it's not going to solve anything for 2020. We got to just take on this socialism fight head on right now. But when you go back to root causes, a lot of it goes right back down to our K through 12 system. And that's a discussion for a whole other day, of course. But again, this is the product now, right? Because it goes from K through 12. I mean, I always say, right now, our public high school systems are failing our kids. And that's why, community colleges are basically kind of an extension now of high school. I kind of say we now have K through 14, and you got to include community colleges because they're an extension of that. And so, again, but all that is basically leading to this idea, right, that people just have a fundamental lack of economic literacy because it is not being taught anywhere. So they just don't understand how the system works. For example, again, how AOC just the other day said we want to cap interest rates on credit cards. Well, all you do is once you start limiting and starting cap interest rates, people are just going to stop lending. Banks are going to stop lending. And then the people who actually need access to capital aren't going to have that. We know this happened back in Dodd-Frank years. Right. And look what happened with the small business owners. A lot of our small business owners just basically lost access to capital because banks stopped lending, right? The government can't force private industry, private enterprise to do lending just because they're saying that you need to do it, right? And so, again, these are the things where if we have to teach this economic literacy, we have to deal with that. Economic illiteracy. We have to hit that head on as well, John.
Well, you're so right. And when she did come out, AOC, with this thing that there should be government regulation to limit interest rates on credit cards, you do. You just limit the access to capital because then what happens? I mean, if you let the market fluctuate interest rates on riskier loans, then it's between lender and loaner to make that decision. You get the banks involved in it, and basically then banks say, all right, I'm only going to lend money to people that have the best credit rating and the best opportunity, the best equity, who don't have to have the money anyway. So the whole thing makes no sense. But again, I mean, you got a 29-year-old who's had one job, running around setting policy or attempting to set policy, and the legacy lamestream fake news media covering it as if anything she has to say is of merit. But that's kind of where we are now. Hey, I've only got a minute. What does Job Creators Network, Alfredo, have planned over the next couple of weeks?
Well, John, there's a big thing that we've got a petition out. We've got a website. I would love to drive people to, if I may take one more minute of your time here. It's called freedomtowork.com.
Yes.
If people could go there, it's called freedomtowork.com. What we are trying to advocate for is reciprocity, across state lines of occupational licensing for our military spouses. This is a major, major issue. 600, almost 700,000 spouses are impacted by this. Unemployment rate amongst this particular group, the spouses of our hard-fighting military, is about 26%, John. We have to attack this issue. This is an easy one. This is actually a bipartisan issue. Should be a no-brainer. We should be able to make sure that any single spouse of a military family member, if they are moved and relocated because of relocation of their spouse, they should be able to work in that new community day one. And a lot of bureaucratic, licensing, archaic rules are preventing that from happening. Again, the unemployment rate is at 26%, I believe is the last number I heard from Secretary Acosta. In this group, we have to make sure that we address that. Freedomtowork.com has that. I would love if you could take a look at that, and your listeners as well. There's a petition on there. Basically, we're trying to drive down these bureaucracies so that we can have our spouses and our hard-fighting military together, living as one unit. Because right now, it's a major, major issue amongst these families.
Go to freedomtowork.com. I'm going to tweet that out right now. Go to freedomtowork.com. Alfredo Ortiz, President, CEO, Job Creators Network. Love what you do. Love our discussions. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the time.